Welcome to Cat and Jess Talk to Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
Today we are talking about the final film in our Halloween event, A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a horror film from 1984. This has a 7.5 on 190,132 votes. The spoiler-free synopsis: in Wes Craven's classic slasher film, several Midwestern teenagers fall prey to Freddy Krueger, a disfigured midnight mangler who preys on the teenagers in their dreams, which in turn kills them in reality. After investigating the phenomenon, Nancy begins to suspect that a dark secret kept by her and her friend's parents may be the key to unraveling the mystery. But can Nancy and her boyfriend Glen solve the puzzle before it's too late?
Alright, so this is directed, of course, like it said in the spoiler-free synopsis, Wes Craven.
Yes.
He's also directed movies Scream, The House on the Left, and The Hills Have Eyes. And this stars Heather Langenkamp, Johnny Depp, and Robert Englund, of course, as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. And this is the second time we have had Johnny Depp, because we had him before for our Disney event in Pirates of the Caribbean. The ratings for this on IMDb, 28.2% of users rated this at an 8. Metacritic, it has a 76%. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 94% on 52 critical reviews. Paul Atanasio. The script is consistently witty. The camera work by cinematographer Jacques Heitken, crisp and expressive. Yeah?
Yeah, I can see that.
J.R. Jones. Craven vitalizes the nightmare sequences with assorted surrealist novelties.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then the 2 rotten. Well, actually 1 rotten. I couldn't. The other ones, they didn't have any like snippets. It was just the whole thing, so I didn't want to have to find a snippet. It's too much work.
It works.
So Ralph Novak. In this kind of movie, it's not the actor's sweat and tears the audience cares about. It's only the blood. So basically, this guy is not a fan of slasher films.
It sounds like it. Like, this is just a classic slasher film. So
yeah, this is right before the decline of slasher films in the 80s. Because they started in the late 70s, slasher films, and then went through the early 80s, and they started to decline before they got to the 90s slasher films that got a little bit better than the late 80s.
I know.
So the consensus: Wes Craven's intelligent premise combined with the horrifying visual appearance of Freddy Krueger still causes nightmares to this day.
I'm gonna have to agree with that one completely. I mean, he doesn't give me nightmares, but
no,
that's me.
I don't really get nightmares, but
only one has caused me nightmares, and that was Hereditary. So
the first movie,
of course.
So the budget for this was $1.8 million. In the U.S., it made $25,504,513. That's before any showings that happened this weekend, or this weekend before Halloween, and the weekend previous, because I did my notes way back then. Because there were showings at theaters throughout October, throughout the U.S. There was a bunch of showings. So that total will go up. The opening weekend, it made $1,271,000. Its all-time domestic rank is number 3,029. Its highest all-time rank it hit on February 12th, 1985, was number 303.
So like 3 months after it came out?
Yeah. So the awards. This was not nominated for any Oscars. It takes a lot for a horror movie to be nominated for Oscars, let alone win them.
Exactly.
As we discussed in the Hereditary episode, as far as I know, the only Oscar-winning horror movie is The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. I think so.
But, so the awards... Avores Fantastic Film Festival. It won a Critics Award. Wes Craven won a Critics Award. And then a special mention, Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy, she got a special mention for her acting. So I don't even know if that's really an award. But... And then, as of this year, the Online Film and Television Association has put this movie in the Hall of Fame.
About damn time.
Yeah, so that's good. Initial thoughts.
You want to go first or me?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I do remember the first time I watched this. I don't remember how old I was, but I was not supposed to be watching it. Well, I mean, technically I was supposed to be watching it, but I don't think I was old enough to be watching it. Because my dad let me watch it because I'd been begging him to let me watch it. And so he finally let me watch it, and he said that the only way I was allowed to watch it is if I got too scared, I told him, and we turned it off. So, I think about an hour in. I'm going to guess I was like 10 or 11 when I first watched it. I think I got like about an hour in, and that's when I was just like, I don't think I'm quite old enough for this yet. Just 'cause this guy, like, he attacks in your sleep, so that kind of creeped me out when I was like 10 or however old I was.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So I stopped watching it, and then like 3 or 4 years later, when I was a little bit older, a little bit more mature, then I watched it again, and I actually really liked it a lot, and I got over that initial fear of it. I think just the initial fear was I was a little bit too young, just a little bit.
That makes sense. It does.
But I do like this movie a lot.
Okay, my turn. So this is my movie, one of my movies I picked, so of course I love it. I think I remember watching this the first time in high school. Because, I don't know why, but it's a weird roundabout way I did this. So, I'm a still big Phantom of the Opera fan, actually. And I was going through the movies, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a horror version of Phantom of the Opera. And I saw it had Robert Englund as the Phantom. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that the guy that plays Freddy Krueger? And I'd never seen Nightmare on Elm Street. So, of course, I watched the Phantom of the Opera horror version before I watched the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
But it made me want to watch Nightmare on Elm Street, because, everyone knows who freaking Freddy Krueger is.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 5-year-olds who I teach who know who Freddy Krueger is. Okay? He's that well known. So it's like, alright, I'm going to watch it. And I loved it. I love it. I still love it to this day. I mean, it's such a great concept.
Yeah.
Because it's in your dreams. Yeah. You can't really escape from those unless you stay awake. And you can't stay awake for too long.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Exactly.
Your body makes
even better. Because you start hallucinating after so many hours awake.
Yeah.
So, I love this concept of, some slasher coming into your dreams and trying to kill you. Love that concept. I mean, Robert is great as Freddy. He's so creepy. Love it. And I was surprised, like, wait a minute. I was like, Johnny Depp's in this too? All right, sweet.
Yeah,
like Johnny Depp.
It's his debut film, so it's great.
Yep.
Because it's trivia bit. There's people that claim this is his first method acting because his character in this is Glen, and Glen is the complete opposite of Johnny Depp. I feel like because Johnny Depp was this cool rocker dude, and Glen is just kind of more of a sports guy, more into sports. I feel like because I follow Johnny Depp on social media, and I feel like he doesn't really care too much about sports. I can never really see him post anything about it. He's more into rock and roll and his dogs.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then Glenn just is very into Nancy, first of all. He's very into Nancy. And then he's also very into sports.
But overall, I mean, yeah. I love this movie. Wes Craven especially. That's just kind of just the cherry on top of all of it.
Yeah.
As like when you think of like horror things, you think of a few people, and Wes Craven is one of them.
Yeah. He's one of the best horror directors. Him and Guillermo del Toro give literally everyone else a run for their money.
I would say John Carpenter is also in that.
Oh yeah, John Carpenter is up there too.
He is
the creator of Halloween.
Yep, John Carpenter.
Not the holiday, the movies.
The movies. I was like, yes.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Alright, that was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So we start off in kind of like this industrial place, and this guy is like making the glove.
Yes.
And if you don't know what the glove is, then you are obviously not a horror fan, because everybody knows what that is.
And it's like, come on.
It's the glove that Freddy uses. It's got the claws on it, finger claws and stuff. It's really cool.
It's a glove. It's got knives on it.
It's a very creative weapon, I will say.
Oh yeah. You know, you don't expect it's real intimate because it's a glove. It's not like an machete or something else like that.
Yeah.
No offense to the other ones.
Well, I feel like in all the slasher movies, they're all like, it's all a very personal thing, because it's always like a knife or a machete or something. Like the most impersonal slasher movie is probably Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it's a chainsaw.
I'd agree with that. I would.
But the rest of them, it's all like super personal. Like you get up close and personal with who you're killing.
True. But I'm biased because it's Freddy.
I love all of them. All of them, like, big, bad horror guys. Like Leatherface. Jigsaw's name. He's a very smart guy, but I'm not big on the Saw movies. But Leatherface, Freddy Krueger, Ghostface, Michael Myers, Jason. Those are the good slasher ones.
Amen to that.
But we get a lot of time right here at the beginning in this like industrial building, and
it's like I always figured it's like, well, I mean, this is, if you know what it is, you know, it's like a boiler room.
Yeah.
There's like pipes and all of that, and
yeah, but very, very industrial.
Yes.
And we see a sheep, and I always thought, like, my entire life that sheep was the most random thing in the world. And it's every time I see it pop up, it just makes me crack up, and I don't know why.
It is kind of random, I'll say that.
Because I'm just like, this is a horror movie, and there's just a sheep standing there in the middle of the industrial place, like, whatever.
Like, why not? It's like, so in this industrial thing, of course, there's a person making the glove, and then there's this girl, she's walking through it, and she keeps hearing, like, this voice taunting her.
Yeah. And then we finally kind of get a little bit of a glimpse of Freddy, but not too big of a glimpse. Like,
it's just kind of like in the shadows, almost.
That's the thing I love about all these firsts, is, like, all the original movies, is when they reveal the monster or, like, the killer or whatever, it's a big deal. They don't just immediately, like, right at the beginning of the movie show you.
Yeah.
Because
it builds you up.
Yeah, it builds up the tension in it. That's what I love about all these originals. Then you get further into them, and people know who it is, and they're like, they don't really take the time to build that suspense with the character.
Trust me, I know. We'll get to that later on.
But the girl that's like walking around in this place is Tina, and she wakes up, and she's like going and heading out to get ready for school, and we get the Freddy song. That's what I've always called it. It's a Freddy song.
Yeah, it's like a jump rope chant.
Yeah.
Hey man, I have little kids that know this chant. I'm like, how the hell do you know this? This is not a movie for you.
I mean, I knew
They
the
know
chant.
it.
I knew the chant before I saw the movie. She's heading off to school and everything, and this is where we kind of get to meet Nancy, which is her friend, her best friend. And
it's like Nancy's important to say that.
And then we meet the boys. Rod.
Yes, which
It's
is
Tina's boyfriend.
And Glen, which is Johnny Depp's character.
Is Nancy's boyfriend.
Nancy's boyfriend, yeah.
And Rod reminds me, he looks a lot like the people in The Outsiders.
Yes! Oh my god, I love that movie.
Tina is telling Nancy about her dream and like what happened and stuff. Nancy's like pretty engrossed in it because she doesn't say it yet, but later on she says that she's been having similar dreams.
Yes.
And being haunted by the same person. So Nancy's like super invested, and the guys are just like, oh, it's just a dream. Nothing can happen. Then it's like later on that day, they don't spend a lot of time at school this first day, at least in the movie. I mean, they probably were at school the whole day, but they don't like focus on it in the movie.
You know, like they go to it's Tina's house because her mom, I think is like her mom, boyfriend, or stepdad or something like that are not home.
Yeah.
And so she asked Nancy to stay the night with her.
Uh-huh.
Just to, keep her safe because, bad dreams. Just being a good friend.
Yeah.
And then Glenn's calls his mom and with tape recorder trying to tell her, he's like, oh, I'm staying at my cousin's house, and that's just a funny bit to me.
Yeah, because he's trying to he's got this big huge boombox and he's playing these tapes on it that have a bunch of different noises, and then the noises start going completely wrong, like there's a car accident noise and stuff, and then he's just trying to sell it, and it's just it's crazy because
it's
people
so bad.
People actually used to do that, so it's just funny.
I was like, there's some funny bits in here. I will say that for being a slasher film.
Yeah, well, slashers do have that comedic relief in it, which is good. So it's got some in there. That's the thing I like, is even the stuff in horror movies when it's trying to be funny, it's not those that it's just so bad that it's not funny.
Oh, yeah.
This was actually very well done, I think. And it's a very 80s thing, too. There's a lot in this movie that's very 80s. But then there's also a lot that kind of outlives the 80s, too.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of 80s references. You're like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
But Rod, so there's noises outside, and so they go outside to check, and it's just Rod trying to scare them, being crazy. And so Rod and Tina go upstairs and get it on very loudly.
Very loudly. It's like, oh, come on. You're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Please be a little considerate of your friends.
Yeah. Everybody else is asleep in the house. Well, Glen wasn't yet, but then everybody falls asleep afterwards. And then there's some weird sounds outside that Tina hears, and then we see the wall. I thought this was a really cool effect, the wall stretching.
Yeah.
I love it when they do that in movies. It's a really cool effect, especially if it's done really well, like in this movie. And then Tina goes outside because she keeps hearing noises, and then we get Freddy starting to chase her because she's actually sleeping still.
And this is the part, I'm not gonna lie, this part always makes me laugh. It shouldn't, but it makes me laugh. Freddy and his long-ass arms.
Yeah.
This part always makes me laugh. I'm like, it's just so silly. You should know it's a dream.
Yeah. And it's super funny because you can kind of see where his actual arms end and where the thing that they were using to make his arms that long begins.
Yeah.
So it's just that is one of the things that doesn't really hold up very well anymore, just because the effects aren't so good on that. But it just makes it hilarious.
Yes, it does. And it's also so funny. You're like, wait a minute. Oh, normal person's arms don't do that.
Yeah.
So you should think, hey, maybe dream.
Yeah, you should. And then, of course, Freddy gets a hold of Tina. And then that's the end of Tina.
Yeah, I like this part where, well, I know I shouldn't be liking this, but it's a good flex. Because he, like, the part, like, he grabs her and everything. She tries to take his face off. And it does fall off. And there's some interesting effects there.
Yeah.
And then she gets ripped up and dragged across that ceiling.
Yeah. I think this is like really the part that started making me scared when I very first watched it when I was a kid, is her just being like completely destroyed while she's sleeping and like being dragged all over the ceiling and stuff. But then now watching it, it's just kind of funny.
And her boyfriend is just watching in horror. He's like, oh my god, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
Because he's awake and he's watching her getting dragged across the ceiling. And he
tries to stop it, but there's not really anything that he can do.
That's true. I mean, she's kind of gone for.
Yeah. Of course, Rod is going to, like, book it. So, Nancy and Glen hear all the screaming and stuff. And so they go to the door and, like, are trying to open it and stuff. And then Rod, like, books it out. He's like, I didn't do anything, and he books it. And then the police, you can hear the police coming and stuff. And then we get the news report. It's like the next morning or something. Nancy's mom is watching the news about what had happened. And Nancy's just like getting ready for school. Gonna go to school.
Like, not like, you know, one of your best friends just got murdered, you know.
Yeah.
Just go to school normally. It's fine.
Yeah, because I think like the time span of this entire movie is like 2 days. 2-3 days, something like that.
It's not very long.
So, literally right after she sees her best friend dead, very brutally murdered, she's just gonna go to school. But it's okay.
Yeah, and her dad, like, had asked her, because her dad's a cop. Nancy's dad's like, what's going on? You know, like, why are you over there in the first place? And all that, and it's, like, crazy.
Yeah. So, Nancy goes to school, and there's someone watching her. Like, we get the view of her and, like, someone watching. And then we find out it's Rod, because he's trying to talk to her to tell her that he didn't do it. Like, trying to convince her that he didn't do it. While they're talking, the cops find him, because Nancy's dad followed him. Or followed her.
I mean, that's just a logical dad move there.
Yeah, because he knows that they are somewhat friends, so he's like, I can probably catch him if I follow her.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But so then Nancy goes to school, and in class, she falls asleep.
Yeah, she falls asleep in class. And this is where she has a nightmare. And she sees Tina in this body bag and talking to her.
Yeah.
And this is, like, at school, too.
Yeah. And so she's like following the trail and stuff, and then ends up in this industrial place, like all of the dreams end up taking place in. And she is just like cool with it. Doesn't even really seem scared at all.
I know, and she's calling for Tina.
Yeah,
and everything, you know, like you just saw her dragged down, and you're still calling for her. I do like this part, though.
She runs into Freddy.
And Freddy, of course, this is cool. I like this effect. He slices his stomach, and it's, like, full of, larvae.
Yeah, like little maggots and stuff. It's really gross looking.
I know,
but it's a cool effect.
Yeah, it is a cool effect. And he goes after her, of course. And she runs.
Starts screaming.
And she has to wake herself up because she gets cornered.
Yes.
And she wakes herself up by touching her arm onto this hot pipe.
Yeah. And she wakes up screaming. And the teacher's like all freaked out and stuff. And it's actually funny. I gotta pull up her name because I recognized the teacher from other horror movies.
Of course. I was like, yeah, and you see that Nancy actually does have a mark on her arm from where she burnt herself.
Yeah, so the teacher is Lynn Shay, and she is a very big part of all of the Insidious movies.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, the teacher's like, okay, well, you need to go home then. Because she's, like, freaking out.
Well, yeah, she kind of wakes up screaming, I mean.
Yeah. And so, she goes, and she's like, says, okay, I'm gonna head straight home.
She doesn't head straight home.
No, she goes to see Rod in jail. And she's, like, talking to him, telling about what had happened. And he's telling what happened too. And they're both talking about how this guy is attacking them in their dreams. And they discover that they have to try and figure out a way to stop him somehow in their dreams without dying first.
Yeah.
Which is a chore.
Just a bit. Just a
to
bit.
say the least.
And, then it goes to, is it Nancy in the tub next?
Yeah, the very iconic bath scene.
And then Nancy's in the tub, she falls asleep, of course, and there's the Freddy hand comes up.
Yeah. And her mom, like, wakes her up, checking on her. She says she's fine, so mom goes away. And then she gets attacked in the tub, like,
She gets
pulled
drugged
under the water. Uh-huh.
Drug under by Freddy. And, like, Nancy's, like, freaking out and, like, screaming. And her mom, like, the door is locked, of course. And the mom has to break through. And she's like, you can drown if you fall asleep in the tub. And she's like,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm worried about. It's like, I was literally drug under the water just now.
But so she goes up to bed. And we see Glen is up at the window, trying to get in. And then they start talking, and he's, like, not really believing her about her dreams and stuff. It's like, it's just, everybody has bad dreams. Like, it's nothing to be worried about. And she's like, you just don't understand.
And so she, Glen's there, and she's like, asks him to, watch out for her so she can look for Freddy.
Yeah.
In her dreams. And this is kind of where I think you, like, if you don't realize she's in the dream, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so, it, like, she walks outside and everything, and Glen's with her, of course, behind her, watching out for her. And she goes to this abandoned door. And, like, goes to, like, she has to walk all over the place. It's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where it is. She goes to the police station.
Yeah.
And she sees that, she watches Freddy walk in and covering Rod up. And it's like, uh-oh, something's gonna happen here. And then, of course, Rod wakes up. He's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Tina appears in her back.
Yep, we get to see Tina. Dead Tina again.
Things crawling out of her. It's really gross looking.
So, this is when Nancy kind of realizes that Freddy's messing with her, so she's trying to get Glen to wake her up. But, of course, he fell asleep.
Yeah, and, like, he chases after her, and she's, like, sinking through the steps in her house.
Yeah, like the mushy steps. The only thing about this part, like the mushy steps, is if you've seen the movie before, then you can spot where the mushiness is. They didn't hide it very well in the steps.
No.
And I feel like with them remastering it to 4K, it's just going to be even more blatant. So I'm like, oh no. Because, you know, special effects weren't that great in 84 when this, or like 82, 83, 84 when this was being filmed and stuff. But this is a really good idea for something. Like, I love this idea, and it's used so many times after this in other movies that it's great. I just wish they had been able to hide the mushy steps better.
Yeah.
I wish they had the technology.
I know, because this would have been really awesome.
It would have been.
But yeah, I know she sneaks through, and what was it? Freddy breaks the window.
No, she has a mirror on the back of her door, and he like crashes through the mirror.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
Oh yeah, the window in the front door.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about in her room.
No, through the front door.
Yeah, and he like chases
Apologies.
her up the stairs, and then it's the mirror on the back of her bedroom door.
Yes.
After that. And then, so the alarm clock wakes them both up, Glen and Nancy. And Nancy's like super mad at Glen for falling asleep while he was supposed to be watching her.
It's like, good job. You had one job. You had one job to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So they head to the police station because of Nancy's dream. She thinks that Freddy's over there attacking Rod. So they get over there and she's like, trying to get her dad to let them down to go see Rod. Her dad and another deputy. But as they're trying to convince them to go in there, Freddy is attacking Rod. And it's not like a brutal attack like Tina's was.
No.
He's very slowly killing him. Like he's tying the sheet around him and hanging him from the cell, so it makes it look like it's a suicide.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, that's sneaky. That's sneaky.
Yeah.
And of course, he does kill him, so.
Yeah. Right as they walk in, they see, right as Nancy's dad and Glen and Nancy and the other deputy walk in, they see Rod being killed.
Yeah. And it's, Rod's funeral.
Yep.
And Nancy's there with her parents, both of them. And she's describing how Freddy looks like to her parents.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit. Like, they know exactly who the hell she's talking about. But they're not gonna say anything to her.
Yeah. It's a little suspicious.
Too suspicious. It's like, they know. They know exactly who she's talking about.
And so her mom, she's like, there's no way that this man's attacking you because he's dead.
Yeah.
Just like so matter of fact. So that makes Nancy suspicious.
And so her mom makes her take a sleep test.
Yeah. It's really funny because they're just like, oh, we're going to put you to sleep to make sure that you have a bad dream because otherwise we won't know what's going on. And the guy's like, oh, there's no way that this is that bad. Like, the numbers are usually going to be within, like, the 5 to 10 range if she's having a bad dream. And so it's, like, it's going, and her dream starts out, like, super slow, but then it gets going, and, like, Freddy's chasing her and stuff, and the numbers on the screen that the doctor guy is watching just start going crazy, like, 40 and 50 and, like, super high numbers that he said wouldn't happen, but then it did anyway.
Yeah, she's like twitching and screaming and everything, so I gotta wake her up.
Yeah.
And she has a white streak in her hair.
Yep.
And there's a few cuts on her arm. And she has Freddy's hat.
Yeah. And they are at home later, and her mom's drinking because she's super worried. And that's when Nancy is finally able to get more information out of her mom about Freddy.
It also has Fred Krueger in the name of the hat.
Yeah,
it does.
She's like, Mom, who is he? And she leads Nancy down into the cellar. Or wait, no. This is where her mom tells her that Fred is dead. Fred Krueger is dead. And then so Nancy is all mad and leaves and goes and talks to Glen.
Yes.
And they talk about it.
And Nancy's talking about how she's reading about, like, how you can change your dreams, like, how you can know that you're in a dream and all of that.
Okay, so that's where she goes back to her own house, and she's talking to her mom, and her mom explains about how Fred Krueger was a child murderer, and he had been arrested and went to trial and stuff, and then he got off. He was, like, set free and stuff.
By technicality.
Yeah. And so the parents were mad, so they took it upon themselves to kill him.
Poured gasoline over him, locked the door, and burned it down.
Yeah. And she shows Nancy his glove that she kept.
Mike, why do you keep that?
And I'm just like, according to Supernatural, you should burn that, because that's the only reason he's alive.
Exactly. Like, what are you doing? Why do you have that?
Yeah, like, burn that. Just melt it.
It's like, that should go away.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
And so Nancy calls Glenn, and she tells Glenn who the killer is. And she's like, I'm gonna bring Freddy out.
Yeah.
And she needs Glenn to help her.
Yeah. So she's like, you can't fall asleep. You have to come over to my house at 12 o'clock. Because you have to wake me up. You have to pull me out.
And so Nancy's trying to stay asleep with, called stay awake pills. I'm like, that's convenient.
Yeah, she's trying to stay awake till a certain time, so that way she can, like, set an alarm and have a good amount of time to try and fall asleep, get in there, find Freddy, and drag him out. So, she has a coffee pot in her room.
Yes, she does. Lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee, yeah. But so, then we see Glen's parents, and he's, like, talking to them for a minute, and then his dad's talking about how he doesn't like Nancy, how she's, like, a bad influence or whatever.
Well, you see that Glenn is in his room, and he's listening to music and watching TV at the same time. Like, nice. Nice.
Yeah. And Nancy's, like, trying to sneak out to get downstairs to meet Glen. But her mom is in the hall drinking. And then so she's going to call Glen because she needs to tell him how to get up there to her room somehow, with her mom being in the hall. But Glen doesn't answer because he has fallen asleep.
Bad idea.
Yeah. So his dad answers the phone, and she's like Nancy's trying to talk to Glen, and he's like, he's asleep, so no. And just hangs up the phone and then takes it off of the hook so that she can't call back. So she tries to call back, Nancy tries to call back, but it doesn't work because the phone's off the hook. So she hangs up, and she's trying to figure out, like, she's thinking, trying to figure out what to do. And her phone rings.
Yeah. You hear a scratching sound in the receiver part, and it sounds like Freddy's glove scratching against, his knives are scratching against the phone.
Yeah, so she screams, yanks the cord out of the wall, and then throws the phone on her bed because she's upset that she just messed up her phone. Like, she has no way to call Glen, and Glen has no way to call her now.
Yeah. And her phone rings. Again.
Yeah. She, like, looks at the cord, and it's all frayed and frazzled. Like, there's no way that the phone should be ringing. So she picks up the phone. Like, why?
I love this part.
Well, why would you pick it up? But so then it ends up being a tongue, Freddy's tongue on the bottom of the phone, like, trying to get her, which is really funny.
You're, like, licking her. I'm like, oh my god, this is great.
Yeah. And then,
she's trying to leave her house.
Yeah, but her mom locked it all up and has the keys somewhere, and her mom's, like, drunk on the couch telling her she can't go anywhere.
That's like, good parenting. Just lock the house up. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. And then, of course, we get to Glen. And I'm not gonna lie, This is always hard for me to watch.
Seeing poor Johnny Depp die.
He gets dragged into his bed.
Yeah.
And all you just hear him, like, struggling to get out. And all of a sudden, you just see burst of blood.
Yeah.
Coming out from his bed. It covers the room, the ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
so
like
much blood.
Way more blood than necessary. Like, way more blood than would have been in an actual human body, but it's okay.
It's for effect.
It is. It's just funny. It's like this big, huge volcano of blood. And his mom goes into the room, but she goes in there and, like, opens the door and is just horrified. So, of course, she calls the cops. So the police show up at Glen's house, and there's blood dripping into a bucket in the living room.
Because it's that much blood.
Yeah. And Nancy's, like, yelling at her dad to come over and help her. And come wake her up in 20 minutes. And he's just like, what are you even talking about? Just go to bed.
Yeah, because she calls. And the house, Glen's house phone's now connected again. Because they put it back.
Yeah, because they put it back on the hook.
And that's how she calls him at the house. He's like, just go to sleep.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm gonna get him. You need to come. They don't listen to her, like, at all.
The coroner, they're like, where's the coroner? He's in the bathroom throwing up.
That's bad when a coroner does that.
Yeah.
Because they see all kinds of stuff.
They do. And so Nancy's talking to her mom about, like, she's gonna go... She tells her she's gonna go get Freddy, and her mom's just like, what? Doesn't seem to understand very well.
Yeah, and of course Nancy's making a trap, too.
Yeah.
She's making this trap for Freddy.
Yeah, she's got all kinds of gizmos hooked up and stuff. It's really funny. And so she lays down, she sets her alarm and a timer on her watch for midnight. So that way she can wake herself up as she grabs Freddy. And so she gets in her dream.
It's her house.
Yeah. She goes down into the basement and is looking in the furnace, and the glove is gone from the furnace. So she then realizes that it's a dream. Because at first she's not quite sure. And then she goes through this door into the industrial place.
Boiler room.
Yeah. Looking for Freddy.
Yeah. She hears the laughter and everything. And
yeah.
she finds, of course, she sees the glove and everything. And she finds Glen's headphones that he'd been listening to.
Yeah.
And they're covered in blood.
Yeah. And she also finds a crucifix.
Yes.
And then Freddy scares her. He jumps up.
And she jumps out and into the bushes.
Yep. Her watch says she has 10 seconds left. So she's got to figure out how to grab him. And she manages to grab him.
She jumps on him.
Yeah. And so she wakes up, but she thinks it doesn't work because he's not in the room with her. But then he jumps out from the side of the bed.
It's like, oh, but he is. And she smashes this glass on his head.
Yeah. She's yelling for help. And the cop is just she's yelling out her window, and the cop that's outside across the street, he's like, it's fine, you're okay. Just stop.
They just think she's a little crazy.
Yeah. And then, so, of course, she runs out of her room, and she grabs the alcohol, and, smothers it, all over him, sprays it all over him, and then sets him on fire. And her dad is running over. And that was in the basement where she covered him with alcohol and set him on fire.
Yeah, there's also the sledgehammer part.
Oh yeah, he gets hit in the stomach with the sledgehammer as he opens the door.
Yeah,
because she set her trap up.
I was I always love the sledgehammer part. It's great. It's a good trap.
But her dad runs over because they see the flames and stuff, and the smoke coming out of the door because Nancy finally was able to get the door open once her dad got over there. And so he takes her to the basement, and they look in there, but Freddy's not in the basement. He has gotten out, and he's gone upstairs to attack.
And there's fiery steps all the way up.
Yeah, attack the mom. I thought that was a good little thing there, the fiery steps.
Oh yeah, it's we know where he is now.
Yep, so he's attacking mom, and then they try to put the fire out, and mom's on fire, so she, is absorbed into the bed.
Yeah. I was okay then. Mom dead.
Yeah. So, Dad goes downstairs. Well, he's like super upset and is talking to Nancy at first. And then he goes downstairs to talk to the other cops.
And Freddy comes out of the bed.
Yeah, they start stretching out of the bed. And Nancy figures out she just needs to tell him that he's not real.
It says you're nothing. And you have no power.
Yep, she's like, I want everything you took from me back. I want all my friends. I want my mom. I want all the energy. I want everything back. And it's really cool because the way they did it, I feel like the effects now on it would be better, but it's still a really cool idea. He just kind of like dissipates as he's trying to attack her.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool effect there.
It does that, and then the door opens. God opens the door, and, you know, it's like, oh, a brand new day and everything. Yep. You know, Mom's alive and healthy and happy and everything. It seems like everything's gone back to normal.
Yeah.
Glen pulls up in his car and everything.
And the car is a striped hood.
Just like Freddy's sweater.
It's the green and red. Stripes. Like the dark green.
Yes.
And the car starts doing like its own thing and stuff, and the mom's just like standing there waving, like, whatever. This is actually happening. And we get the Freddy song with the jump rope girls again.
And Freddy breaks through the window of the front door and pulls the mom in.
Yep, as the car is driving off on its own.
And that's about it.
Yep, that's it.
That is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep. So the music for this is by Charles Bernstein.
Yes.
And he is known for The Entity from 1982, Cujo from 1983, and then Battlefield Home from 2017. It's his most recent. Actually, that's the most recent thing he's done. It's a documentary, The Battlefield Home. He's not working on anything else right now. His very first thing he ever worked on was a movie called Stoney from 1969.
Huh. I mean, like, this score in this movie is gotta be one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's really good. Just like with the movie itself, there's some very 80s vibes to it. But that also helps it out in the movie itself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've played the theme, Freddy's theme from this movie, and most of the kids recognized it.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, that's Freddy's. I'm like, very good. So it's that recognizable.
Yeah, it's very recognizable. I love the theme in this. There are a few parts of the score that I feel are a bit outdated just because they're so 80s. But the main theme is still very well done.
Oh, love it. Love it. And I'm like, love me some 80s synthesizer in there. Because there is a lot of synthesizer in this, I'll say that.
Yeah, there is.
But it works for the time because, it's 80s.
Yeah.
A lot of synthesizer in the 80s. I'll say that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's all of the music. Charles Bernstein. Very classic theme for Freddy. Like, if you hear it, you know it's Freddy. So, comparison. There are 6 sequels to this.
Yes, there is.
Then there is Freddy vs. Jason, which I guess you could call a sequel. And then there is the remake from 2010. So, I watched 2 through 7.
Yep, I watched all of them, besides Freddy vs. Jason and the remake. So, the main constant in this, of course, is Freddy Krueger. Throughout all of them. And Robert did play, up until the remake.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2, this completely goes away from everything. The main character's a guy. I'm not gonna lie, there's some it's weird. Number 2's weird. I'll say that. It's probably the worst one out of all of them. I will say that. It is nothing. Nancy's not involved with this at all.
Yeah.
And, It's weird. It's weird. I didn't like it very much, like, at all. I mean, there's a famous line in it from it, you know, "You're all my children now."
Yeah.
But it's not very good. 3 was good. 3 I liked. That is the Dream Warriors. And Nancy's back. She's older now.
Yep. I know I've seen this one.
Yeah. 3's probably one of the better ones. I will say that. Yeah, Nancy's back. And there's more kids actually having the nightmares with Freddy. And it's a group of them. And so they're put into, like, I don't know, kind of like a state hospital or something like that. And Nancy comes and helps because, you know, she's been through all of that before. And she helps him out with all of that. You know, and that's a pretty good one. I'll say you learn a little bit more about Freddy. You learn about who his mother was, actually. She was a nurse at the state hospital. And she had gotten stuck in one of the wards one night and got raped many, many times. And that's how Fred came about. 3's good. 4 is Dream Masters. And that one's not as good as the third one, I'll say that. Because in the third one, I'll say this now. Nancy dies in the third one.
Yeah,
she does.
I do remember that.
She does die. Freddy finally gets her. And so the fourth one moves on to the newer kids that you met in the one before. So the fourth one, like, I'm not gonna lie, most of the ones in the fourth one from the third one die, like, right away. So you're like, okay, that works. And the Dream Master is this new girl. Her name is, what was it, Alice? It's Alice. Yeah, it's Alice.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, it's Alice. She becomes the new, what happens was she knew the people that had been, you know, having the Freddy dreams and everything. And the one girl who is, like, really, like, could be able to pull people into the dreams was able to pull her into the dreams. And so Freddy gets a new whole bunch of people through Alice, through this one. And she knows how to control her dreams. And so what she does in this one at the very end of, this is 4? Yes, 4. She makes him look at himself in a mirror. And it's like, you're nothing. And, like, he, like, disapparates, you know, like, disappears and all of that. Number 5. That one is Dream Child, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's Dream Child.
Yeah.
Dream Child is, so Alice, of course, continues in this one. And she and her boyfriend from the previous one, you learn that they are going to have a kid. But Freddy, of course, it's not going to be a happy family because Freddy goes and kills the boyfriend. Because, you know, that's just Freddy. And what he does, he's coming not through Alice's dreams anymore, not pulling people from her dreams. It's through the baby's dreams. Because babies, like, in the womb are supposedly asleep or dreaming, like, I don't know, 90% of the time.
Okay.
So he goes through the kids' dreams. And you see, like, this little kid, and Alice's dreams, too. There's this little kid. And she's like, what the hell is this? And she's like, he's, like, telling her, like, you know, Freddy's coming and all of that. And so you used to learn more. You get to see more of Freddy's mom in this one. Because she had been, what had happened was she had died after giving birth to Freddy. And then afterwards, and they had buried, and it was an empty grave. And so they couldn't find her body or anything. And what happened was it was actually blocked up at the state hospital.
Okay.
And so she's the one who helped defeat Freddy in a way in this one. Now 6. 6 is probably, I was telling Kat about this, 6 is called Freddy's Dead. Nightmare on Elm Street 6. This one's so hokey. It is so hokey. I will say that. It's supposed to be shown in 3D, and it really does show those 3D effects. It does. Like, you know, the popping out of, like, the screen and all of that and everything. And you actually learn about how he got arrested and everything. And you also learn that Freddy Krueger actually had a kid and a wife. And what happened was his wife had found out he had this secret little room in the basement where he had kept all the kids he had killed. And the wife found out. And so, of course, you actually get to see Robert Englund as himself, like with no makeup on in this. You get to see it before Freddy gets burned. And, of course, Freddy kills his wife. And his little daughter watches the whole thing. And she finds the room, too, actually. And what happens is the police of course, going to take the little kid away and everything, and puts her in an orphanage. She didn't know that was her dad until, she was in her 30s. And so she has to face him She has to face him. She got to face her dad. And she's the one who gets him. This one gets him out of the dream, kind of like the same way Nancy did, just like grabbing him. Pulls him through. And, yeah. With that, there's a pipe bomb involved. And Freddy blows up with a pipe bomb.
Gotcha.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This is number 7, technically. This one, you get to see Heather Langenkamp's back in this one. She's acting as herself. And you also get to see Robert in this one as himself. You also get to see Wes Craven on screen. And, some of the other, producers and stuff from the actual original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And what you learn is that Wes is thinking of making a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And he wants Nancy to do it. And what happens is that Freddy comes back into her dreams again. And it seems just like Nightmare on Elm Street all over again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And what happens is... Freddy's actually going after Heather's son in this movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Pretty crazy, but like I said, this one, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is not bad at all. Probably the Dream Warriors is probably the best out of the sequels. I'll say that.
That's number 3, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, out of all the sequels, that's probably the best one.
Okay. So I watched Freddy vs. Jason and the remake from 2010 because Jess wasn't gonna get to those. So that's the ones I watched. So Freddy vs. Jason, Freddy is trying to come back because this doesn't take into account story-wise. The 7th one, so New Nightmare.
Yeah.
Story-wise isn't taken into account in this one. So what happens is Freddy's trying to come back to life, but he needs people to remember him, and nobody really is, the town is very hard trying to avoid remembering him, because they know that's what, at this point, they know that's what happens, if you remember him, if you think about him, that's how he comes and attacks you.
Yeah.
So, Freddy has decided to wake up Jason, who at this point is dead in his franchise as well. So this is kind of like an attempt at a revival for both of them.
An attempt, yeah.
And then they both get really crappy remakes, so it doesn't work. Because I feel like this is what sparked the remakes.
Yeah.
But, so, of course, Freddy wakes up Jason, and so sends Jason via his mom. He's somehow pretending to be Jason's mom, and wakes him up from the dead, and his mom sends him to Elm Street to kill people, because Freddy knows that if Jason goes and kills people on Elm Street, that's going to make everybody there think of him. And so that's what happens, but Jason, being the psychopath that he is, doesn't want to stop killing. And so then it ends up being this big, huge bloodbath / battle between Freddy versus Jason at the end. And it's a very terrible CGI battle.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
It's really bad. But it ends up both of them are dead again. So It's not the greatest thing in the world. A lot of people die. Freddy and Jason both die again. So, then the remake came out in 2010, and there are bits of it that are decent, but that's just because the bits of it that they do, they're playing on stuff that happened in the original.
Okay.
So they literally just take some stuff that happened in the original and basically just give it better effects. Like, more updated effects. So that's really the only reason that like, those parts are any good, is just because you actually get to see the really cool parts that happened, but with better effects.
And Robert's not involved in that.
No, he is not in that one. They changed the backstory to him being a child molester. He was like a gardener at a daycare, and he was molesting the children, and parents found out about it, and Nancy was his favorite, so that's why he's, like, coming after her again. But he ends up, like, the parents kill him. He ends up going after all of the kids. But it's really stupid, I think, like, the way they made it happen, because none of the kids remember that they were in the same kindergarten together. Like, they're like, well, we didn't meet each other till middle school, we didn't meet each other till high school, like, all this and that. So that is really dumb that they just, like, made the kids forget.
Jeez.
The makeup on the actor playing Freddy is terrible. Like, whoever did the makeup, it was terrible. Like, I could tell it was a mask. It looked like a mask you buy from a Spirit Halloween store. It was just bad.
That's terrible.
The only other really, like, decent, cool thing is you get a little bit more science behind this sleep deprivation.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So I think that was kind of cool.
That's good. I like that.
Because then you kind of understand more how he is super dangerous. Because they, like, talk about micro naps, which is, like, where your brain shuts itself off for 30 seconds trying to catch back up, and you still think you're awake. So you don't know that your brain is sleeping, and so you start seeing stuff in the real world rather than wherever Freddy takes you. So that was really cool, like, a cool aspect of it that they didn't explain in the original. And then also the fact that after you've been awake for so long, I don't remember exactly how long, but your brain will completely shut down and put you in a coma. And then you're dead because Freddy's going to get you no matter what. So
I know after 72 hours you start hallucinating.
Yeah, and then it's not long after that you end up going in the coma. And the hallucinating is your brain, that's the micro naps.
There we go.
So, it's cool that they explained it more, but it's pretty bad remake. Honestly, the only thing that was better was the special effects, because the CGI is better now. Oh. In 2010. But the fact that they couldn't even get makeup right was just wrong.
Makeup has come a long way, too.
Yeah, that's the thing, is, like, if you can have makeup that looks better in 1984... then in 2010, there's something wrong with your makeups crew. So. Exactly. I was able to write down all of the ratings for these. So, of course, the original has a 7.5 on IMDb, and then the Metacritic was, of course, the 76, and Rotten Tomatoes was 94. Freddy 2, IMDb has a 5.5, Metacritic is a 43, Rotten Tomatoes is a 41. So it's not great, but it's not terrible. It's just kind of sitting in the middle, but not very good. Then 3 has a 6.6 on IMDb, a 49 on Metacritic, and a 74 on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's better than the second one.
Oh, it is.
According to everyone.
It is.
That's the only one besides Freddy vs. Jason in the remake that I've actually seen. Number 4 has a 5.7 on IMDb, a 56 on Metacritic, and a 55 on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's kind of sitting in the middle, still better than the second one.
It's a lot.
The fifth one has a 5.1 on IMDb, a 54 on Metacritic, and a 32 on Rotten Tomatoes. So overall, it's worse than the second one.
I can see that.
Number 6 has a 4.9 on IMDb, a 39 on Metacritic, and a 20 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yep.
So it's pretty terrible.
I can agree with that.
The seventh one, New Nightmare, has a 6.4 on IMDb, a 64 on Metacritic, and an 80 on Rotten Tomatoes. So that one is not quite up there with the original, but the next best thing, basically.
It's like I said, 1, 3, and the last one, 7. Those are the ones I liked.
7 sounds interesting. That's probably the only one I will watch besides 1 and 3. Freddy vs. Jason. IMDb has a 5.7. Metacritic has a 37, and Rotten Tomatoes is a 41. So, fans liked it a little bit better than critics did, but it's still not very good. Like, it's kind of in the middle there. And then the remake has a 5.2 on IMDb. Metacritic has a 35, and Rotten Tomatoes has a 15. So once again, fans liked it more than critics, but it's still just kind of a in-the-middle type movie. For me, Freddy vs. Jason, I believe I gave that a 4.
I can see why. I can.
And then the remake, I gave that a 3.
Whew. Good thing I didn't watch it, but I refused to watch it.
Yeah, you would probably try to give it, like, no stars.
Probably.
But yeah, that's all of that. So, trivia.
Okay, I got trivia. Go ahead for yours first, though. Go.
It's just one. So this came out in 1984. There was a ton of horror like that type of genre movies that came out. Ghostbusters was one of them that came out in 1984. Gremlins was another big one that came out. This one did really, really well in the box office. I think for the year, it was number 3. It got beat out by Ghostbusters and Gremlins. Gremlins was the highest grossing of that year. Since then, Ghostbusters has now become the highest grossing of the 3 that came out that year. But I thought it was kind of cool that it was like super high grossing.
Well, that's good.
For the year it was in.
And this came out after Halloween, actually.
Yeah.
It came out in November.
Yeah. But it made quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I can see why. I can. Let's go slasher film.
But yeah, that's all that I have for trivia.
Alright, so, a couple things with the trivia. I'll start with the, of course, trivia on the internet, and then I'll go to the Comic-Con one. So, where Wes Craven got the ideas for a slasher coming into your dreams is actually there's people who died just suddenly from their dreams, like from nightmares. And what happened was that people would have a nightmare, and then they would stop, like, they wouldn't sleep at all. They would just refuse to sleep. And then, of course, as soon as they fell asleep, they would wake up screaming from the nightmare, then they would just die. They just simply died. There was no reason why. And what happens, there was, like, no cause of death at all. And so that's where Wes Craven got the idea for it. But now it's called Asian Death Syndrome, which is just like SIDS, which is Sudden Unexpected Death Syndrome. Or SUDS, as you call it. Because SIDS, of course, is the infant one, where babies just suddenly just die. Also, where you got the name Freddy Krueger, he actually did have a classmate of his whose name was Fred Krueger, and he was just a huge bully to him.
That's funny.
And so that's kind of, he's like, yeah, I'm going to use that name for sure. I like this one. So the glove, like the sparking glove effect that you see in the movie, is you just literally just attach the glove to a car battery. That's it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, that's awesome. I like that. There's one filming effect I wanted to talk about. It's with Glen's death, actually. I believe is what Wes Craven did with his scene is that you can see it too. It was filmed, but then it was flipped and like flipped upside down. I believe that's how you get that effect. Because instead of it shooting up, it looks like it's shooting up, but really it's going down.
Okay.
That's where that effect came from. Cause
That's a good idea.
you just shoot it. This happens actually. It's not. He's done this, but other people have done it later on. So they might have gotten the idea from him that you do it like regular, like you pour something down and then you just flip it.
Yeah.
And it sees like it's actually going out instead of in, which I think was a cool effect. I've always liked that effect. All right, now Comic-Con. I actually did get to meet Robert Englund. I will have to say, he was like one of the nicest people I've ever met. Ever. Okay. He was very sweet, very kind. Those piercing bluish gray eyes that you see in A Nightmare on Elm Street and the rest of the Freddy movies, those are his real eyes.
Oh, cool.
They are his real eyes. No effects there. They are gorgeous. I will say that how he got into the mindset of playing Freddy, there's a whole story behind it. So, Johnny Depp, Heather's like nice, young, beautiful people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, he's sitting in makeup right before, they have to start filming. It took 3 hours to put his makeup on. 3 hours. So, he has to
That's
sit
understandable.
in costume. His costume was all wool. So,
oh, God.
Wool sweater, wool pants, and, the hat, of course, is going to be wool, but he doesn't have that on yet. And so, he's sitting there, and it was a really hot day when they're going to start filming. And he was just sweating up a storm. And so he's in that chair for like 3 hours. They come in. And they come in, for makeup. He's like, why do they need makeup? They're beautiful. Why? And so he comes in and they get fans because it's so hot. And he gets nothing at all. And so he was irritated. He was frustrated. He was angry. And so what he did, he brought those emotions in when he was going to do the Freddy part.
Oh, okay.
And it's an old theater trick called sense memory. For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. And so which that is you think of a time when, like, you were supposed to be angry. You think of a time that you were angry. It is.
Yeah.
And so it works that way. What else? I know that was a big one I want to talk about. What else? And I think that I liked about it is that he talked about how everyone has their own Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Everyone does. The basis for Freddy is literally just the sweater, the glove, the hat. And, like, that's really about it. So he can be scary as hell, or it can be, like, the nicest person. Like, I've had a dream about Freddy Krueger. He was my buddy. And one more thing I like to say. Robert played Freddy Krueger from 1984 to 2003 on the big screen. So, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
He still does voice acting for it, though. He still continues to do voice acting for it. He did his real voice for Freddy in, like, The Simpsons, Family Guy. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
I was like, he is awesome. If you ever get the chance to meet Robert Englund, do it. Do it. And I gotta give props to the people that got me in there. It's, I gotta say it, my brother's podcast. They got me in. Their name's Lunar Harpoon. So if you know, go check out Lunar Harpoon. They're awesome too. They love geeky stuff. They talk about geeky stuff like comic books, sports, movies, all that stuff. So check them out too.
Cool. So, favorite line. Forget it, Tina. The point is, everyone has a bad dream once in a while. Forget it. Don't leave me alone with this lunatic. It's only a dream. Do you believe in the boogeyman? What the hell are dreams anyway? Don't fall asleep. Of course.
That's a classic line.
And then my last one. Don't need a stretcher up there. You need a mop.
I wrote that one down too.
But it's actually really cool because there's this, I don't remember what the song is, but I listened to it a lot in high school. There's this techno song that uses a lot of lines from this and like uses the Freddy theme, but makes it like very techno. So it's so funny because you just literally get a line from the movie and then it just goes on and does its little bit, and then you get another line from the movie, and it's just funny the way they were able to put it all together. So some of the lines I picked are actually from the song too.
Nice.
Because I just love them so much, not only in the movie but also in the song, so it just makes it better. I don't remember what the song's called though.
I got a few.
Okay.
This is God. It's Freddy's line. He's dead because mommy killed him. Of course, so whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Yeah.
And then the stretcher one. You're as nutty as a fruitcake, but I love you anyways.
Okay.
And I'm your boyfriend now.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I'm trying to think of any more lines. Because it's just... There's a lot of lines in here, but it's just hard to narrow it down to one, you know?
Yeah.
What was your dream one?
The forget it, Tina. The point is everyone has a bad dream once in a while. Forget it. Or, let me see. I think I might have had another one. Hold on. It's only a dream.
That one.
And then the other dream one I had was, what the hell are dreams anyway?
Oh, those two are good ones. Let's go with the what the hell are dreams one.
Okay.
I like it.
Alright, so what is your rating?
This is, can I say like an 8.5? Because it's like almost a 9, but it's like more than an 8 for me. So in my head, it's an 8.5.
Okay.
I know they can't do that like half stars on like IMDb.
I wish we were able to do half stars on IMDb.
For me, because I don't put it in, you do for yours. So I'm doing an 8.5. Mostly,
Okay.
The only reason why I take away some points is because some of the special effects don't age well. That's about it.
That's what I was going to say too, because I'm giving it an 8 as well. Like, it's a pretty high 8.
It is.
But still, I can't put it with my 9s just because the special effects don't age very well. There's some things in the story that don't age very well just because they're very 80s.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of the music doesn't age very well just because it's 80s. The theme is iconic. That will be forever.
Whew, yeah, it is.
Good.
I play that
but
every October.
But some of the music in there doesn't quite age very well. It's got a very 80s feel to it. But the story in this is amazing. The special effects that do age really well and the makeup that does age very well, those are both phenomenal. They're both great. It's just the fact that there's just a few of them, of all of those little bits that don't age good enough to make it what it was. Like, I feel like if this had been made now in today's society and never had been made before, it would be probably a 10 for me.
But we don't have Wes Craven anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he was still alive and had been able to make it now instead of having made it a long time ago.
Rest in peace, great Wes.
Yeah. Like, that's what I mean. Like, if we had the technology that we have now back then when he did make it, I feel like there would be nothing wrong with this movie.
I know. And if Robert was involved, oh my god. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just the fact that some of the things don't age very well, and that's just
that's the only
a downfall of the time.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that, too. It's just, like, some of the special effects just don't age very well. I mean, Freddy Krueger will always be iconic. Mm-hmm. And you can't take that away at all.
No, definitely
I was
not.
like, again, we have little kids know who Freddy Krueger is. I mean, enough said. And this movie's it's gonna celebrate its 35th anniversary in November.
Yep. Just a few weeks.
Yep. Because it came out November 16th, 1984.
Yeah. So 35 years in 16 days after this comes out.
Yeah.
So speaking of this coming out, this is, like we said at the beginning, the last of our Halloween event this year. Hopefully you guys liked the movies we picked. Hopefully you got some new movies to watch next Halloween. But our next event coming up is going to be our holiday event. And the movies that we picked for our holiday episode, the two that I picked, Babes in Toyland from 1986 and Krampus from 2015. You know I had to pick a horror movie, so.
She had to. I was like, it was Gremlins last year, so it has to be another horror film this year.
Yeah.
And me, I actually picked 2 animated films. Well, they're stop motion technically, but so
they're still animated.
They are. It's just a different type of animation. So I picked Santa Claus is Coming to Town from 1970, and like one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, The Nightmare Before Christmas from 1993. I was like, I might just go watch that in a little bit, actually.
So yeah, that will be out at some point in December. So look forward to that, and we will remind you when they're coming up as well. So, if you could leave us ratings and reviews, let us know how we're doing. Comment on the episodes. Just kind of interact with us. It'd be great to know what you guys think. And it also, ratings and reviews help us out a lot. Ratings help us get discovered by new listeners. The reviews help us figure out like what we could do better and what you guys like and stuff like that. So we are offering premium. If you would like to become a premium member, you just go to our website, catandjesstalkthebest.podbean.com, and you just go over to the right side and scroll down a little bit, and there's 2 options there. The first option is $1 a month, and you will get uncut episodes, early release episodes, and a special monthly episode for that $1. Or you can sign up at $5 a month and get all of that, plus be able to join us for a movie of your choice every 50 movies. So, that is available. As of today, when this episode comes out, our special monthly episode for October will have come out yesterday, and that was Batman and Robin. Our special monthly episode for November is Jake Gyllenhaal and
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. So, we'll talk about them and talk about their influence and why we like them and stuff. So, check those out. Also, if you would like to become premium, please do. It helps us pay for the website and stuff. If you would like to interact with us, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or you could email us. Our music is by Audio Binger, and you can find him on Facebook, YouTube, and his website, audiobinger.net. So until our next episode, which I believe is Platoon, coming out next Saturday, so not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday it will be out. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this Halloween event. We enjoyed doing it, so we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Oh yeah, happy Halloween too.